Channel. Now you guys already saw the preview as to what we are going to be talking in this video. Now I'm going to be putting my classic disclaimer. This is my design, and if you guys want to use some of those things, you can go ahead and use those. Now, one thing I should say as we start the whole design process is that I've already done a few designs that kind of have the same concepts as to what I'm doing in this one. Now, this is a project that I did last year, but I really enjoyed working with the homeowners in the actual design. Now, the front of the house does not look super amazing for a few reasons. One of the things is that the homeowner wanted to keep the front yard as less maintenance as possible, which meant having a lot of rocks, a lot of different textures and colors of rocks, but nonetheless rocks, which meant a xeriscape style of front yard. So a few things that we've been doing so far is that if there is a gutter somewhere, we will utilize that in order to create a dry riverbed. And so that's one of the things, or one of the elements that we create in this one. Obviously, we don't want to do straight riverbeds. You know, we always want to have some curvature to those, and you will see it within the design. Now, one of the things that you'll see as I'm talking in the video somewhere in this area is that I will give you some dimensions as to what this would work. Depending on your area and or your house that you're working on, this may work out really well for you. But one of the things I want to concentrate on this specific video is more the shrubs and trees that we use in this area. And the reason why I want to do this specific design is because the backyard is amazing. I really enjoy the design and the elements and the elevations that was there and what allowed us to create this design. But I want to make two videos. This is going to be part one. You'll see part two next week. Stay tuned for that one. But let's get started with some of these ones and some specific shrubs that you can use if you like them. I'll be putting some pictures here, that way you guys can look at them and what they look like, and potentially once you kind of see them, you'll see them if this will be to your taste or maybe not, right? But as I mentioned before, this is specific to the homeowner where they're like, I don't want to do a lot of maintenance. In fact, I want to do the least amount of maintenance, maybe taking out some weeds here and there, and maybe checking for irrigation, maybe a bit more of water, that type of thing, depending on what they're wanting to do. One of the things that you'll notice is that the homeowner themselves added some planters, some baskets, some other stuff here and there, and then this was to what she wanted to do and also him, a bit of both. It's a tag team situation. But that being said, let's talk specifics as to what is going on over here. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on closest to the house, and that's what we have there. Three little Princess Spirreas, and I'll show you some pictures of those. They're not gonna be super big shrubs, really not going to obstruct any views, especially if you have a window right there. If you want some privacy, you can definitely do some other stuff, something bigger, potentially something that could be like an evergreen, maybe like a Mughal pine. I've spoken about those before. And there's other stuff out there. It depends on where you're from and your area. You will have different stuff. If you're in the area of Texas, if you're in the area of Florida, or say Washington, Oregon, that type of thing, many different options. But in the area where this house was built, in the area where we're gonna have shrubbery is gonna grow to this location, this is gonna be one of the options that we can do among many, but just give you some ideas. Now, In front of those, we did put some daylilies. Those are perennials, and they will give us, depending on the type that you want, you can get some that will give you some yellow flowering, some white flowering, a bit of a mixture of the sort of a burgundy red type of thing, and there's other stuff that you can put if you don't like those specifically. Now, as we kind of move away from those, we do have some dwarf Korean lilacs, where it will be more of a medium shrub, medium to large. And then as we kind of move a little bit more away from those, we have some peonies. Now, peonies are again really awesome perennials that you can use if you like those. A lot of people are actually very big fans of those, so maybe if you don't know what those are, if you Google them, you'll know what it is. And I'm going to put a picture again so you can see what that looks like. Now, as we kind of move away from those, we have some Frobel aspireas, and aspireas, for the most part, you'll find them pretty much everywhere. They're really hardy shrubs, and maybe not specifically the Frobel, but there are other colors or other kinds of aspireas that you could probably use that may be similar to a specific Frobel. There are many kinds that you could probably use in your area, but give you an idea, that's something that you can use. It's going to be more of a medium to sort of smaller shrub versus other ones that we're going to be using in the design, and maybe not specific to the one in the front, but just the overall design of this specific project. This being part one, we'll talk some more about the part two and some other shrubs that we use for that part. Anyways, kind of moving along, we also use some globe spruce, and those are going to maintain their green to blue color all year round, and they're going to grow quite big, and you can shape them up a bit to be more of the way it sounds, which is more of the globe, or maybe that sort of sphere-ish type of look. You can definitely help it out, just to give it a bit of a pruning here and there. Don't be too aggressive, however, don't you just go, kind of chop it here and there, but you can help it out somewhat. They also want to do some roses, and the thing about roses, specifically to me, I'm not a huge fan of them. It's not that I don't like the flower, I just don't necessarily enjoy the thorns. And you may be that kind of person, or maybe you really enjoy the roses and also their fragrance. So depending on where you are, you may have many options. So specifically to this ones, we did use some floribundas, and there's different kinds out there. You have some that are going to be more wild, which means is one thing is that they may have smaller roses themselves, the actual flower and the petals, and there are some of the really big ones, the ones that we think about when we think of a rose, the really big ones with the really nice red. Again, different kinds, different areas, elevations, weather patterns, all those things will come into play. This one was some of the kinds that they were able to put in the area that is going to survive, which is very important, that you are going to be putting something in there that is actually going to work for your area. Now, we also put some dwarf burning bushes. Now, those are going to be the type that are going to start out sort of green at the beginning of the season, and as it gets to the fall, the foliage will change to more of a red sort of color. Not a whole lot of the flowers going on with that one, but hey, this is going to give you that extra color to kind of have a bit of the spring, a bit of the summer, and a bit of the fall sort of interest going on here. As far as the tree, it's going to be an amber maple, which is going to be on the medium size of trees, so about 20 to 25 feet, give or take. And as far as how wide it is, similar to tree shape. Now, in the design, it called specifically for an amber maple. When this project was being done, unfortunately, they did not have that one specifically, even though the design says that. In fact, it was a Tartarian hot wings maple, which is kind of close to it. It is a maple. It's not the same thing, just so you guys know, because some people think about just, oh, it's a maple, it's an oak, it's this, it's that. Yes, they are those, but there are some differences to them, so keep that in mind. There's ones that are going to give you more of that red color, some are going to give you even that burgundy, and some are going to give you some of that sort of yellow color. So it really matters the kind that you want, depending depending on the area where you want to have those. So I'm just kind of putting it out there, because the design is going to say something, but actually as the project was being handled, unfortunately those were not available at that time. So keep that in mind. Maybe when you are doing your project, have a few options just in case there is not what you want originally, but maybe you have a second or third option that you can use in your area, and also the time of year. So have that in mind. And depending also on your nursery, maybe there's a few nurseries out there in your area that you can maybe contact before you start your project. And keep in mind that you may not be the only ones to be working on an outdoor project. Maybe your neighbors, not just right away, but even within the city, or outskirts of the city, they are wanting to do something similar. So keep that in mind as you are doing that. So we kind of mentioned this. There are a few other stuff going on here. Some red and potentillas, also some Dickinson Gold Gargano bellflowers, and those are going to be more on the perennial side of things. Now, there's not a ton, as you can sort of see at the beginning of the video, that there's not a bunch of stuff, but there is plenty where you have different colors going on. So now that we spoke about those things, let's talk a little bit about the materials. So as I mentioned, the homeowners want to have the least amount of maintenance as possible, so they went for stones as opposed to say mulch and or sod. So they want to kind of match their house, and their house was very on those sort of gray colors, so they were able to use a few different rocks. One of the things is that in this area, and this is not specific to this area, many places around the states have similar guidelines from the HOA, which is if somebody built their house first, then you as a neighbor have to match some of their stones. So as you sort of saw from the beginning, there was some that was going to be more on that sort of brown to almost sort of pink looking color. The homeowners were not jazzed about that, but again, we have to match a little bit of that. But kind of as we kind of went into their property, we were able to use stones that were more to what they wanted. Specifics more into blue gray river rock on the 1.5 inch size, and we were able to do some black granite of 3/4 inch just to give them that sort of difference. And there's another one, it's called Clear Creek, at least that's what they call it in the area, where it's gonna be not as dark as the black granite. It's gonna be a bit on the grays with some tans in there, so it's gonna match really close to the house. And there's also another tree there, which is the spring snow crab apple, and that's gonna be an early spring type of a flowering tree, which gives you white flowering per the name, spring stone type of thing. But that is it in a nutshell what's going on here. There are some accent boulders, and as I mentioned before, the driver bed with some cobblestone, some blue gray to kind of match the other stones, between 5 inches and about 12 as far as the bigger ones. And I talked a little bit more about that. So again, a video right there in case you guys want to see that. But this is kind of it that we're working with this one. Again, more specifics to what's going on this one, because I do want to jump from this video to the next one to show you what happened in the back, and I'm going to be very I'm going to wait to give you guys that one. But for the meantime, if you guys like any of this, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you guys are using in your projects. Is there something that you've maybe are thinking of doing? Maybe you can comment me and potentially share it here in the channel. The idea behind this channel is to give you guys ideas for your own projects, and this area that we're working here is going to be more of a high desert, but it doesn't mean you can add some pretty stuff to it where you can still enjoy it. Now, this specific area in the front, not too crazy as far as people want it to be, but the back definitely is. I'll talk some more about that in the next video. But in the meantime, if you guys want to give us a thumbs, give us a sub, we would definitely appreciate that, and it will help us to kind of grow this channel and kind of have more information about this and design tips for you guys, ideas and all that good stuff. Well, in the meantime, please take care of yourselves, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.